Alright, so this is going to be part 1 to what if Deku had wave motion. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro. Alright, so before we start this what if, I'd like to say that yesterday I made my first episode to UA Year 1, and I really appreciate you guys if you would go and check it out. I could tell you the synopsis, it's in the description of that video, but I'm not gonna read it, like, I don't have it written down, so I'll just tell you, I'll just paraphrase it for you. So it takes place 100 years after, or 100 years in the past, so before the start of the anime, and it's in a world where only 30% of people have quirks, right? And those who do have quirks are discriminated against, and the main character Apollo is recruited to go to UA, which is a newly formed high school for quirk users, and basically he has to challenge the system there to become the #1 student and hero. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go to my, go watch the video and you can see what the kind of episode 1 is like. I'll have it linked in the description. And if you want to be a part of the series, like have one of your OCs be in it, then you could go to my Discord and go to my UA Year 1 section, and you could just help by giving your own kind of OC. So with that being said, let's just let's get into the actual what if. So wave motion is the quirk of Nejire Hato, which is one of the members of the Big Three. This was a request from one of my fans, I guess, or a commenter, and they wanted this what if since they really like my Tamaki one. So it's going to be similar in the sense that Deku is going to be siblings with Hato or Nejire, and he's going to be the younger brother. So what wave motion does, it's like a beam, it's like energy, right? But instead of shooting it out like a laser, it actually shoots out like a spiral. So because of this, it's kind of slow, but it's a lot more powerful because of it. So it's slow but powerful, and it uses the user's life force to it uses that as energy, but it doesn't take away, when they mean life force, they mean like stamina. So Deku would have to train his stamina a lot to use this quirk effectively. So we would start off on the day that his quirk actually manifested, which would be around the age of 4. So they would figure out that he would have the same quirk as his sister Nejire, since it's basically identical. So they're classified as the same quirk, which is wave motion. So in this one, we could say that I guess Nejire's parents are going to be different. So the mom is going to be Inko, and the father would be Nejire's actual father. So that's how we're going to say that they're related. So Deku's last name will not be Midoriya, but instead be Hato. So he'd be Izuku Hato. So yeah, so when Deku goes back to school, he shows off his quirk, right? And it's pretty flashy since it is a energy based kind of quirk, but he can't use it for too long because it wastes a lot of stamina. So Bakugo would come in and think, well, because he has his own quirk, that being explosion, and he would like to show it off, and he would basically tell Deku like, oh, how are you going to be a hero if you can't even use your quirk for that long, right? And people would kind of make fun of him because of this, and he would kind of be bullied slightly because of him having a weaker quirk than people have or normally have, and it's something that he can't really use too often. But his sister Nejire has had that quirk longer, so she kind of knows how to use it. So she would teach Deku a few things, and Deku would be determined to become a hero because he's very inspired by people like All Might. So he would be determined to be a hero, and Nejire would be there to support him because she also wants to become a hero, and seeing her little brother really be confident and determined to do this, she would join with him in training. I don't know the exact age of Nejire, but I'm pretty sure she's the same age as Tamaki, so the difference in age would be about 2 years. So Nejire, we could skip all the way to the last day of middle school, since there isn't too much known about Nejire's past, I guess. Nothing like Tamaki's, so yeah. So in this one, they would have trained for the years up to this point, so they would do a lot of stamina training, right? But Nejire would not be as strong as she was yet, because she only became a big 3 member during her final year in UA, which is her 3rd year. So at this point, she isn't as strong as she is in canon. So yeah. So, but she is stronger than she would be normally at this point, but not as it is in present time, I guess. So yeah. So we would get to the last day of middle school, and the teacher would talk about things that the students can do when they basically leave middle school. And he would also announce that there'd be 2 students actually going to UA, and that being Bakugo and Deku, right? So Bakugo would go up to Deku, and in this one, I don't think they would be kind of they wouldn't really be friends, but they wouldn't really be enemies as well. I think they would just be kind of just acquaintances at best, really. And this is when Bakugo would go up to Deku and basically ask him, like, do you really think you can get into UA? And he would basically say that, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. My sister made it in, so I'm pretty sure I can. And Bakugo would be like, all right then, I'll see you at UA then. Because he's very confident he'll get in because of his quirk. And Deku's personality is not really... It's a little bit different than it is in canon. He isn't like he's not like a carbon copy of Nejire, who is very curious and very who approaches people a lot. Deku, I think he would be kind of somewhat the opposite in some regards. I think he'd be a lot more serious and things like that, but he would also be very kind-hearted. So he isn't like serious with like how Ida is, where he's all about academics and things like that, about school. Just serious in general. Kind of have that kind of straightforward attitude. And yeah, he's very loyal and things like that. So the reason why I say this is because that's usually how siblings are act like, at least with when they're like different genders, or you know what I mean. That's usually how it works. So yeah, he's gonna have like a slightly different personality than he is in canon. He's still gonna be confident because of that influence from his sister, but he's gonna be kind of serious at the same time to kind of distinct themselves from each other. So we would get to the kind of, he would walk home and he would go to that shortcut that he would usually go, and this is when the slime villain actually attacks. So the slime villain would try to take over Deku's body, but Deku would actually use his quirk against him, that being wave motion. So he would generate 2 waves from his hands and use that as a basic wall and push the slime villain against the wall. The slime villain wouldn't really be able to get past it, since it has a lot of force behind it. And as Deku's kind of pushing him against the wall, he could feel it kind of fading, since it does take a lot of stamina, right? So Deku, at this point, he wouldn't be using 100% of his power, because Nejire has that kind of percentage thing that One For All does, where like she uses like 30%, 50% of stuff like that, so she doesn't waste all of her stamina at once. So yeah. So he would basically be able to use like 30%, and he'd be pushing the kind of slime villain against the wall. And right before it actually stops and he almost loses consciousness, this is when All Might comes and uses a smash to kind of knock out the villain and put him into the bottle. Deku would wake up a few seconds later and be surprised that it would be All Might. All Might would say like, oh hey, kid, you did a great job defending yourself. What type of quirk do you have? And he would be like, Deku would say that, oh, my quirk is wave motion. He's like, huh. I think I heard something like that before. Well, I gotta go. I gotta take this to the authorities. So, bye. And this is when, he would fly off, and Deku would not, um, grab onto the back of his leg because he'd be confident that he could be a hero since he has a quirk. So, after this was done, he would get home, and there wouldn't be that second slime attack. So, in that kind of 10 months, him and his sister would be training to use their quirk more. And I think at this point, Deku, after the 10 months of training, that intense training that he would do, he would build up his stamina a lot more, and he would be able to use his 100% of his power, but not really for that long, maybe about an hour, and then he'd be very fatigued. So yeah. So when they get to the kind of UA, they would, I think Deku would get as well on the the written part, if not better, since he would take his studies a lot more serious. And yeah, I think he would get higher than usual than canon. So after that was done, they would get to the practical part, and this is with the robots in the city. So Deku really wouldn't meet Uraraka because he didn't trip, because he's very confident, and I don't think he'd be in a position to really talk to people at the kind of gates for the practical part of the exam. So when President Mike would say go, he would rush in using the kind of wave, using his quirk wave motion to have those spiral energies underneath his feet, just how Nejire does. It's kind of like how Iron Man kind of flies using this propulsion. So it's kind of like that. So he would rush in, and he would go point blank with his wave motion to kind of shoot robots straight in the face, so that it'd be easier to do it, and it'd be a lot quicker since they travel really slowly. So yeah. So he'd be able to get a lot of points really fast, since he'd be able to fly pretty fast, and also destroy a lot of the weaker stuff like 1-pointers, 2-pointers, and 3-pointers, right? Because they aren't that strong, because Nejire's kind of quirk is very powerful physically. She was able to basically knock down 2 gigantification quirks users pretty easily, and basically slam one through solid concrete. So it is very powerful in sense of things like that. So Deku would have no problem really, and this is when Deku would hear people running away from this certain direction, and he'd be questioning like, why is that happening, right? And he realizes that a 0-pointer is actually going in that direction. So he's like, okay, I gotta run because I don't want to mess with it, since it's not gonna give me any points. And this is when he hears someone scream, and it turns out to be this girl. He doesn't know her, but he can't just stand there and let her get crushed. So he starts flying and bolts towards the robot. He flies upwards towards the robot's head and uses 100% of wave motion, and goes like a point blank hit towards its head, basically knocking the head off, right? And I think at this point he would have went beyond 100% just to try to do that, right? Using 100% to fly up there and push over the robot would take a lot of his stamina, and he wasn't really preparing for this. So this was when he would kind of fall a little bit from fatigue, and this is when Uraraka would save him using zero gravity, right? And before he would land, he would get back up and use wave motion to kind of straighten himself out. So it's not that like, it's kind of using too much energy at once, I guess, that kind of knocked him out for like a few seconds, because he wasn't prepared to do that, and he's been using wave motion for a long time before that to kind of take over to destroy the smaller robots. So that's how I'm going to justify it. So yeah, after that was done, this is when Recovery Girl would come out to heal up Uraraka, and she would basically thank Deku for saving her. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here, and then in the next part, we'll go over the quirk assessment and the heroes versus villains and things like that. So yeah, I don't know if you guys want Deku to have all for one or one for all in this. I'll put a poll on this video and see what you guys want. So yeah, with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah,